What's going on, guys? Aaron from Top Tier Gaming here, and today I'm bringing you an updated Harpy Lady deck profile for the brand new February 2022 ban list. So the ban list just got revealed like a couple of days ago, and Harpies actually took a hit, and I haven't said that in a very long time, but we lost the Simorgh link, which I have right here. We can no longer run that card as he is banned, and he was a very core part of Harpy's go first strategy. And with him gone, the deck's going to have to play a little different. The list itself doesn't have to make huge changes from before unless you want to play like a Dragoonity version. But this is a pure Harpy Lady deck that is running, just Harpy cards, no Tri-Brigade, no Dragoonity stuff. I know some people really like the Dragoonity version, but I really enjoy pure Harpies, and the playstyle of the deck's going to have to change slightly. Without Simorgh, your end board's going to be different. But yeah, I do think Harpy Lady are still a very powerful deck that can just steal games, and it has one of the easiest just FTKs in the game. I say FTK kind of in quotation marks because it doesn't actually FTK, but Harpy Ladies have some of the most ridiculous cards in the game. I mean, it has essentially a block dragon, it has a card that searches an emergency teleport, it has an emergency teleport, it has an Azathoth. Like, this deck has crazy cards, and yeah, it's just so good for the Harpy Lady archetype. And if you do enjoy Harpy Ladies, then leave a like on this video. Consider subscribing, it really supports what we do here on the channel. And again, like for future Harpy Lady content. We do have a Discord down below if you want to check that out, where you can join a Yu-Gi-Oh community and just like talk with other Yu-Gi-Oh players, maybe have some fun on Master Duel, whatever you guys want to do. If that does sound interesting to you, link down below. And without further ado, let's get into this Harpy Lady deck profile. Alright, so starting off with the Harpy monsters, we're going to start off with the 3 Harpy Channeler. So Harpy Channeler still remains to this day one of the best starters in the Harpy archetype. She is a 1.5 card starter because she does have to discard a Harpy monster. However, she's like one of the best because she is like 2 Harpy monsters on her own, herself and the Perfumer, and then Perfumer grabs another one, which is very good because Harpy Channeler helps you extend much farther. She also has a very unique ability where if there's a dragon on field, she actually becomes level 7, which will come up as we go through the deck profile. There is a couple of interactions that make her level 7, and then you can get extra plays off of it. But yeah, Harpy Channeler, just one of the best starters and definitely one of the cards you want to see in your opening hand. Next, we have 3 Harpy Perfumer. So this is like almost as good as Channeler. Channeler has the higher ceiling, but Perfumer is like a 1-card starter in a way because she doesn't need any other card in your hand. On summon, she just adds a card from your deck that has Harpy Lady Sisters in its text, which is usually Elegant Egotist to be an extender and, the emergency teleport that it is. Perfumer is really good because if you control a level 5 or higher Harpy monster, she can actually search 2 cards from your deck that have Harpy Lady Sisters in its text, which is just a lot of plussing in one card. You can get a bunch of different resources depending on what you need at the time. And what's very cool is when Harpy Channeler is a level 7, that means Perfumer will search 2 cards, and there's actually a play to be able to do that in this deck, which is very nice. And yeah, Harpy Perfumer, just one of the best starters. These are your 6. The Channelers and the Perfumers are definitely like your 6 best Harpy starters in the deck. So we definitely want to maximize on 3 of each of those. Then some Harpy 1-ofs. We have the 1 Harpist and the 1 Oracle. These serve like very specific purposes and aren't really plays on their own, which is why they're both at 1. They're very searchable in the deck through a few different cards, so you can see them when you need them, but they're not exactly cards you want to be opening all the time. Harpist is like good in grind games because it's a Scarm, and it also is like just in theory the best discard off of Harpy Channeler, so she's a good card you can run. And then Oracle is an extender that does come up quite often. If you have a level 5 or higher Harpy monster, you can special summon her from your hand. But more importantly, when she's special summoned during the end phase, you can add a card with Harpy Lady Sisters in its text back to your hand, which is super good for keeping all your advantage going. And then the most important engine requirement for Harpy Ladies is actually the 3 base named Harpy Lady. Yeah, this is the one I choose to play. You can, in theory, run a couple of different choices here. You can run like Harpy Lady 1 or the Cyber Harpy Lady, but those are nowhere near as good as this Harpy Lady in this version of the deck. Because this Harpy Lady is a normal monster, that is actually very important, because it means you can make something in your extra deck, which makes a lot of your plays a lot better. I do have a Harpy combo video if you'd want to see those plays down below in the description, so check that out if you would like to see some Harpy combos. but essentially it all relies on Imduck and the fact that he is a dragon. So if he's a dragon, Perfumer can be level 7, and then Channeler can be level 7, and then Perfumer can get 2 searches, which is very, very good. So we definitely want to be on the normal vanilla Harpy Lady. Alright, on to the hand traps. They are a little bit odd compared to what other decks are playing for hand traps, but I'll explain why. We are on triple DD Crow, which is, I think, going to be such a good powerhouse this format. Because Scythe is looking to be one of the best cards just in general, like Destroy Phoenix Enforcer, Artifact Scythe, and just Eldritch cards in general. DD Crow is very, very good versus, and Sky Striker, it's also very good versus. So DD Crow is looking like a powerhouse hand trap this format. Definitely not one every deck will play or even side, but I think it is a very good card. And then we are running 1 Droll and Lockbird. So why does our hand trap lineup look like this, which is very odd? Why isn't it like, 3 Ash Blossoms or some Nibirus and Impermanence? And that is for the Small World in the main deck. These cards are very good for Small World, and I'll explain that when I get to Small World, but yeah, essentially you need to run these as very good bridges. So these are being just really good hand traps, DD Crow and Droll and Lockbird just doing what they do, and halting your opponent's plays, as well as bridges to find our starters if need be. So they are consistency as well as just being good hand traps. Alright, on to spells. We have the most powerful Harpy card in the deck, 3 Hysteric Sign. This card is absolutely insane. Important to note, you can only use one of this card's name's effects per turn, and only once that turn, which means you have to choose how you're going to use this card. But its first effect is when it's activated, you can add Elegant Egotist from your deck or graveyard to your hand, which is great because Elegant Egotist is an extender. It's just like you can use Emergency Teleport like 3 or 4 times in a turn with this deck, and it's so funny how many times you can actually use it in Harpies to just get more extenders. But the real effect of Hysteric Sign, and the one you want to be aiming towards, is if this card's in the graveyard because it was discarded or sent from the field to grave that turn, you can add 3 cards with Harpy in its name from your deck to your hand. And this search is what I like to call the FTK, which I'll show at the end of the deck profile. And it is so, so powerful. This is one of the craziest cards just ever printed for an archetype. Like if any other archetype had this, it'd just be so insane. It is limited by being in the end phase, so it's not like super crazy, but because of Harpy's Featherstorm, as it doesn't matter if it happened in the end phase, as long as you get the Featherstorm for your opponent's turn, it's good, and Featherstorm can be activated from the hand because you are on Harpy Ladies. So yeah, Hysteric Sign is one of the craziest cards in the deck, and we're on a 40 card list to maximize the chance we see Hysteric Sign. To go with the Hysteric Signs, we do have 3 copies of Elegant Egotist. This is our emergency teleport. If you control Harpy Lady, you can special summon Harpy Lady from your deck. Now, you can control any Harpy monster essentially to activate this card as long as their effects aren't negated, but you have to special only the normal monster from your deck, which is why we are on 3 of her. Because it has to specifically be Harpy Lady, and she's the only one whose name is that in the deck. So you want to be maximizing on this. It can be a little bricky if you don't open a play, but to be fair, if you didn't open a play, you're not playing anyways. So I just feel like 3 Egotists is the way to go. And then the next couple of Harpy spells, we have 2 Hunting Ground, which is more than I normally play. I'm usually on 1 of this card, but one of the things on the ban list was Skill Drain coming to 3, and I think Eldritch is going to be such a strong contender this format because, 3 Skill Drain's insane, and Hunting Ground can just destroy back row decks and dismantle them just so easily. You can very quickly clear all of your opponent's back row at no cost to you. And this card is also very good for just, popping annoying cards and even your own Hysteric Sign if it so comes to that as your only way to get it engraved. You use Hunting Ground to pop your own Hysteric Sign. Important to note, this card's mandatory, so if it's the only spell or trap on the field, you do have to pop itself. So maybe don't play it if you don't have any back row to pop. And then we are on 1 Feather Rest. Now this card is essentially a Pot of Avarice. Or really it's a Degusto Emerald. You shuffle back 3 and draw 1. But if you control a level 5 or higher Harpy monster, be it the Synchro or a level 7 Channeler, you actually get to draw 2 cards. And drawing 2 is just super good. An Engine Pot of Avarice that can be recycled is very strong. One thing to note is it does lock you into special summoning wind monsters, so you have to be very careful to be aware of that. And the last Harpy spell in the deck is, of course, the Harpy's Feather Duster. It's so funny being able to profile this card as an engine requirement because Harpies is the only deck where this card is an actual engine requirement in the deck. You can search this card, which is just super good. Again, Harpies can just dismantle back row. very easily with, you know, Hunting Ground, Feather Duster, and these cards are like searchable, which makes it so good. So we're definitely playing the 1 Duster. For some consistency cards, we do have 2 Small Worlds. So if you're playing Master Duel, which I know a lot of people were commenting on my last Harpy profile that they're coming from Master Duel to play Harpies, and Small World's not in the game, so you can run like Max C over this card if you're coming from Master Duel. But for the TCG, why are we running Small World? So Small World has some really cool links in this deck through DD Crow and the Droll and Lockbird. So we're running these as targets because, very importantly, Droll only matches up to Harpy monsters as a wind, and DD Crow only matches to Harpy monsters as a winged beast. So any Harpy can link to any of these cards, and then any of these cards can link to a Harpy monster. Meaning you could take like a dead Oracle in your hand, link it to DD Crow, and then add Channeler or Perfumer from your deck to your hand. Which is very good because it means by using these as bridges, you can add starters, which is what you want. But if you happen to open one of these and not have played, Droll and Lockbird can link to DD Crow because they only match up at level 1. Everything else about them is different. So Crow can match to Droll, who can match to a Harpy. Droll can match to Harpy, which could even match to Crow if you wanted to. So with these bridges, Small World can search any single monster in your deck off of any single monster, which I do find to be very good because consistency is key, especially when you only have 6 true starters in the deck. So you definitely do, if you have access to Small World, I definitely recommend playing it in this deck because you really want to see a starter, and we're not on anything like Pot of Prosperity in this list because we do have a lot of engine cards that happen to draw. So Prosperity does conflict very heavily, and Small World is sort of the card we want to use to add some consistency. Next up, 2 Unexpected Die. This card is very good because we are on the normal monster Harpie Lady. Another reason you want to run that specific Harpie Lady for your Elegant Egotist. This helps you play past your normal summon. It can help you rip through additional back row with Hunting Ground. But playing through your normal summon is really important, and being an extender is very good. Opening this and Channeler that's able to be used is very powerful because you can Unexpected Die, Harpie Lady, make it M-Duck, then normal summon Channeler, use her effect Special Perfumer. Well, because M-Duck's a dragon, you can search 2 cards off Perfumer because Channeler is level 7, which is very good. So yep, Unexpected Die is one of the best extenders to Harpie Ladies. And a card I'm trying at 2 right now is actually Quiddle. So this card I was at 1 in my last list because I didn't like that to draw 2, it essentially you have to be able to play, which is always risky because you want draw 2s when you can't play to help consistency, right? So having to play first before you can draw 2 is like almost counterintuitive in a sense. It's just like a win more. But I think without Simorgh, this card became more impactful in the deck and almost, I think, more necessary because your goal at this point is to sort of turbo into Featherstorm. And Quiddle, if you're able to like play, you can try to draw into Featherstorm that way, or draw into more draw cards that could help you get to Featherstorm. So I think Quiddle is really good now in a Go First variant because you want to see it more often so that you can try to turbo into your power cards. And that's really important to either draw Hysteric Sign or to get your Featherstorm. It's just more chances to draw your power cards. Next up, sort of cause for the format, we have 2 Forbidden Droplet and 2 Forbidden Chalice. I only have access to 2 Droplets, so you could just like run 3 Droplet and like a Chalice, or take the Chalices out altogether and just run 3 Droplet. I'm on, 2 and 2 because Artifact Scythe is just such a huge problem this format. It seems like it, right? Like the format hasn't lasted any time at all. We don't know for certain, but everyone is assuming Artifact Scythe is a huge problem, and it just seems to be the case. And these are good cards at trying to stop Artifact Scythe. But Droplet is really good in this deck, and I think you should always be playing as many copies of Droplet as you have because of its interaction with Hysteric Sign. You can send Hysteric Sign for this card and then get your Search 3 at end phase, which is so good and can just win games on its own. So we're running these for Scythe and just like good interruption cards, good go second cards, but also Droplet is almost like an engine card with how it gets rid of Hysteric Sign. Alright, last up, some 1-ofs. We are on the Double or Nothing for our Utopia Double. We are on this package because it's the easiest way for Harpies to actually OTK or do like any damage at all. And then we have Called by the Grave because it's one of the best cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! And last up in the main deck is 3 Featherstorm. So I said earlier that Hysteric Sign is the best card in Harpies. Really, it's like this card, But Hysteric Sign searches this card and does more, which is why I say Hysteric Sign is the best. But really, you just want to turbo into Featherstorm. This card is so disgustingly good. Obviously, it had some play last meta with the Bird Up deck, and now a lot of people are quite aware of how powerful this card is because it's almost just a turn skip, which leads into game on the follow-up. Featherstorm is so disgusting, and in this deck it's even better because you can use it as a hand trap, which means like on your first turn you can like make plays. If they try to ash you, you can use this as a way to shut down all hand traps for the rest of the turn, which is very good. And this card is searchable in this deck, which is even more disgusting. I do side Trap Trick in the side deck as like just another go first option past game 1, just to see more copies of this card, because if you resolve this once or even twice, you're probably just in a good position to win the whole duel. And that is it for the main deck. On to the extra deck. We are on to Cyber / Harpie Lady. Also, the extra deck is definitely where Harpies took the biggest hit, because losing Simorgh was definitely tough. So we are on to Cyber / Harpie Lady. This card is just like pretty good, but most importantly, it's a level 5 or higher Harpy monster that you can very easily make, and it's an interrupt. So if you have this, you can activate Featherstorm from your hand and then get a bounce off of her effect, which is really cool. But also, she's just like a massive body, and she's just like, overall, you're going to be playing 2 to 3 of this in your deck because it's one of the only boss monsters Harpies can actually make. And it's what makes Perfumer like a 1-card starter into like Cyber /, so that's pretty cool. Next up are Linkones. We have an M-Duck and a Link Spider. So these are both like good Linkones for different situations. M-Duck is to turn your channeler into a dragon, or turn her into a level 7 because he's a dragon, and Link Spider can special summon more of the vanilla Harpie Lady from your hand. And I'm running 2 of these because you actually need their names for a very big card in the deck, which I will now go over. It is Barricadeborg Blocker. So this card takes 2 monsters with different names to make, and the issue with Harpie Ladies is all of their names on field is actually Harpie Lady, so you can't take Channeler and Harpie Lady and make Barricadeborg Blocker. It's just not a legal play. But you can turn the Harpie Lady into M-Duck or Link Spider and then link those into Barricadeborg Blocker. And the reason you play Borg Blocker is his effect to discard is very good because you can discard Hysteric Sign, which will proc its effect at end phase. Now, I've heard there's like a bug in Master Duel where you cannot do this, and I don't know if that's just because it's a bug or it's like an OCG ruling that they've implemented. In the TCG, you get to choose how your effects resolve at end phase, so you can resolve Hysteric Sign first and then add back Hysteric Sign with Barricadeborg Blocker. But for some reason on Master Duel, that is not allowed. So maybe on Master Duel you can take this out for something else, but yeah, definitely in the TCG you want to play this card as a way to discard your Hysteric Sign. Next up, some Link 2s. We have the 1 Conductor, the 1 Pentastag because we are on Utopia Double, so this can come up. The 1 Barrage because we are a, you know, beast type deck. So these Link 2s all come up in different situations, and Barrage's like really cool because it's not only an extender, but it can actually shuffle the double or nothing from your hand back to the deck. And then something new I'm trying, and it kind of took some more spot, is BLS. So I find this card sort of interesting in this deck because Channeler can become level 7, and you also have like Cyber / Harpie Lady. You can make this as like a really good go second card. And again, Eldritch seem really good this format, so if you're in a situation where they don't have skill drain, this card, if it becomes 4500 attack, almost just solos the entire Eldritch deck. So yeah, this card is absolutely insane versus some matchups like Sky Striker and Eldritch. And yeah, you can make it pretty easily, so I figured it might be good to run. I'm testing that slot, but again, losing Simorgh was pretty detrimental. Next up, we have the Lightning Chadori. I guess I'll put this here. This card's just a really unique card this deck can play, and almost only this deck can play, so I think it's pretty nice. It's good versus back row decks. It can help clear the board. It's still like a pretty decent card. It's not something I make often, but I think it's really cool that this deck can play it. Then we are on the Utopia Double and the Utopia, the very beautiful Astral Rare Utopia. Yes, absolutely love this card. This is one of the most powerful, you know, cores of the deck, and the fact that the FTK exists is because of this. So I guess I'll show the FTK now. It's essentially when you search off Hysteric Sign, you get 3 Harpy cards, right? So you can search Featherstorm, and you can search Harpy's Feather Duster, and of course you can search Perfumer. So this is what I'm calling the FTK because it is so good. So with these 3 cards, you can like Feather Duster all of your opponent's back row, so they have no spells and traps to work with. you can normal summon your Perfumer, go to search Elegant Egotist. If they activate any monster effect, you can just chain Featherstorm. So now they don't get any monster effects this turn, they don't get any spell and traps this turn. So there's nothing that can stop Perfumer from going Elegant Egotist and then making a rank 4, which is double, going into your Utopia Double, and then swinging for game. Of course, this is not always going to work, right? Like, you know, Feather Duster could get negated, or they can stop your play like by chaining to Featherstorm. So it's not like foolproof, but that's what I'm calling the FTK, because when it resolves, it is just almost always game, and it is one of the reasons to run this Utopia Double package. Next up, we are running 1 Rhapsody in Berserk. I kind of like this over Dweller, this format, and it's mostly because of Destroy Phoenix Enforcer. I like being just able to get rid of him and like Dasher altogether and just remove them from the grave. So Rhapsody in Berserk is sort of what I'm playing over Dweller right now, but I guess you could play either. So if you would rather play Dweller, you can definitely do that. 1 Phantasmal Dragon. This is a pretty cool card because it takes 3 materials, which means this can be a very good way to make a 2-cent Zeus, because, you know, that's 4 materials under him. But this card can also steal games by itself because it can attack directly, and it's very hard to out. And then lastly, of course, the Divine Arsenal AA Zeus to round off the extra deck. So that's going to do it for the Harpy Lady deck profile. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think of Harpy Ladies this format. Again, this deck did take quite the hit in the form of Simorgh. It was such an important piece to this deck's go first strategy. You can do a couple of things with this deck now, like play it more go second, which I think is really good, but it's not the way I like to play. I think you can also run this with Dragoonity or Tri-Brigade, and maybe it might even be just better to do something like that, but this again was a pure Harpy Lady list. So, yep, this has been Aaron from Top Tier Gaming. Bye, YouTube.